Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Velga, back with another video and more artwork. And today I'm going to be showing you this collection of artworks that I have made for a commission. And the commission is a bunch of food. I made a total of, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I made 8 artworks of foods, and these foods, well, they might look familiar because I have drawn them in the image of foods that exist here in real life on Earth. But for this particular project, I was contacted by a book author who wanted me to draw a bunch of illustrations of dragon meat, and to be more precise, cooked dragon meat. And I don't actually know what dragon meat looks and tastes like. If I were to think about what dragon meat would taste like myself, I'd probably think something along the lines of, well, dragons are lizards, right? They're reptilian. So they would either taste like fish, maybe even chicken, or lizard. And I have had snake before. It's a bit of a funny story actually. I don't know if you've had this before, but have you ever had beef floss? It's an actual thing. It's popular in Asia. It looks like this, and it's made of beef. And where I come from, Indonesia, if you have come home from somewhere, let's say you are on vacation from, I don't know, like a different part of Indonesia or even overseas, you come back and you bring to the people that you know, your friends and family, just souvenirs from wherever you went for vacation. And in this case, a friend of mine just went back from vacation, and this guy was a co-worker, and he went to the office and he brought us a bunch of foods. Yeah, so like he got these foods from a different part of Indonesia, and he brought a bunch of foods. He even brought like wine, like a type of rice wine he got from wherever he was having his vacation in. And I saw this jar of beef floss, and it looked just like beef floss, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And I ate it. And I thought, this tastes kind of weird. It's a little fishy, but not like fish. And I turned the jar around because I wasn't looking at the label, because the label was on the other side, and it said snake, and to be more precise, it said python. And I was like, bro, what the fuck did you give me? he brought me python floss. But anyway, I know what snakes taste like, I guess. And if I were to be left to my own wonderings and imaginations, I wouldn't get this creative. But this author, who goes by Kiah, was very specific in the descriptions of the different body parts of the dragon and how she wants them cooked. She was very helpful in explaining to me, and all I really had to do was just draw. And I made 8 different illustrations. I can't wait to tell you about them. I'm just going to start with telling you about this very first one. This very first one, right here, is the thigh. I don't actually know what thigh tastes like or looks like, coming from a dragon, because dragons aren't real. But anyway, I tried to make this one look like this particular, and you can see on this corner here on the left, the bottom left, this is, I believe this is called a shank, a beef shank. But I tried to make it look like the bone here is extra big and thick, and the shank itself, the meat itself, is covering more of, well, there's just more meat than there is bone, unlike the beef meat that you see here, the reference photo. And I made sure to add this little tomato in the corner for scale, just so you know how big this thing actually is. And I learned quite a lot actually from drawing these fantasy meats. And to draw these, I used a textured brush. Do you see all that texture? I think it worked out quite well. It gave everything, unintentionally gave everything detail without even having to consciously add detail because it's textured, you know? So it sort of just naturally adds detail. And I tied everything up with like a twine here, just so the meat will stay stuck to the bone instead of falling off, because meat can just fall off the bone if you bake it slow for too long. And this very next one is the back ribs of the dragon. And I made sure to make the bones look quite round, you know, like I don't actually know the shape of dragon ribs, right? Like in this example photo, the ribs are kind of flat, the bones, you know, they're kind of flat, but just to make it look different, the bones here and the ribs, I tried to make them look more rounded instead of flat. And I learned a lot from looking at the reference picture and also just drawing the rib barbecued meat itself. It's that because it's slathered with just a lot of sauce, even though the sauce itself is red, like very dark brown red, reddish dark brown, and the meat, if you cook it without any seasoning, it's probably going to look somewhat golden brown, you know, like dark golden brown. But because you slather, well, I slathered a lot of sauce on the surface of this thing, no matter the color of the sauce, because it's moist, it will reflect the color of the sky, which is in this case blue. And I also added some sauce, not too much, because I don't want it to make it look like I didn't want to make this whole thing look like it's just more sauce than there is meat. I believe less is more worked very well in this case. And I also added a bunch of little sprinkles of green, which could be anything really, just to give it a nice contrast, because everything in here is quite earthly colored, so quite brown and red, you know. So I added, like, I thought adding green would make it look pop, and in this case I think it did. Oh, and the highlights, some of the highlights are actually just straight up pure saturated yellow, and I think it worked out nicely. And I added this little garlic bulb in the corner again for scale, and the texture once more worked out in my favor. It made the entire thing look convincing. And here, this very next one is actually the neck meat. I don't think I've ever had like neck meat steak, but this one's fairly simple. I tried to just make the steak look circular, and in this case it's sliced in half right down the middle. And I tried to make it so that it's surrounding this spinal column, and I tried to make it look like, yeah, kind of similar to like a cow's spinal column, I guess. The shape of it is a little different, but you can see how it's sliced right down the middle in half, and you can see the bone marrow on the inside is just like dark brown. You can eat it, it's delicious, and a lot of the highlights are yellow. And I've noticed from the neck meat steak illustration, well, not illustrations, photos I've seen online, that the meat actually looks quite tough and dry. I don't know if that's the case though, because I've never had it before, so I'm very curious if you've had it before. What does it actually taste like, and is it tough or is it tender? Go ahead and let me know in the descriptions below. And I added these greens, these leaves. I don't know what these are. They could be anything, and it's good for me to leave these greens on top to make it look fresh and to give it a nice contrast. And I again use like a textured brush, very stony looking, but from afar it just looks like nice texture. I added these green leaves because one time I think I was in Malaysia, and I ate the local food there, and they used these deep fried leafy greens, but they didn't look like veggies, you know, they looked like just leaves. I don't know what those are, but they tasted really nice. And lots of it were sprinkled all over. Actually, you know what? It might have been Singapore. I don't remember, but anyway, either Singapore or Malaysia, they sprinkled lots of these green leaves on top. I don't know what those are called, but I enjoyed them. So I decided to put those leaves that I knew nothing about in here as well. And I gave it like a little chunk of butter, and it's melting a little bit because of the heat. I think it looks quite pretty. And this very next one is supposed to be the belly part of the dragon. Again, I don't know what dragon belly meat looks like, so I tried to just give it like a random cut. Like a nicely shaped, nicely cut chunk of just belly meat, like a mystery belly meat. It's got these little bits of the fat. Here you can see it's also made using textured brushes. This entire thing is made using textured brushes. I think it worked out very nicely. And you can see the reference here in the corner, the bottom corner. It's just an English breakfast, like a plate of English breakfast. And there's two types of bacon: the regular, darker, thicker looking bacon taken from the belly. And did you know that English bacon is actually different from American? I believe they call it over there back bacon or pulled bacon. I'm not sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But their bacon looks like this. It's not like charred and crispy. It's quite moist still. So I tried to recreate the same effect here on the side. You can see the whitish pink meat, the texture of it. It's not quite the texture of meat, but you can see how the texture just looks like splatters of paint. But I don't think it matters all that much because you're going to see it zoomed out anyway, and I'm not like a super realism artist, you know. I'm just a regular old fantasy artist, and I think painting it this way already made it look convincing. And I tried to give it these shadows to show you the different indentations that this particular piece of bacon has. And also gave it this little slither of light pink along the side, just to not make it look like it's paper thin, so it actually looks thick, you know. I like thick bacon. And I think this one on this side looks good too. This was a lot of I believe a lot of layers stacked on top of each other. So I made a bunch of textures, I covered it up with an overlay, and then I covered it up with like a normal blending mode layer just to, I don't know, just like push it back, you know. Like I would drop like a random pale orange and then turn the opacity down so it won't cover everything completely, and then I added more textures on top, and I covered those up again, and then I added more textures on top. It's just like, wow, it's a lot of layers stacked on top of each other, and at the end of it I gave it this super dark shadows to show you the texture, the ridges on the sides, you know. And also it might show, or what's the word now, it might imply that this particular chunk of bacon is a little bit on the burnt side. I wonder what dragon fat tastes like actually. Is it like pork, I wonder? Dragons are quite muscly though, yeah? They're like lizards, and lizards are muscly, right? Like snakes? I'm not sure. Cause, yeah, they're probably not going to dissolve or melt in your mouth like pork fat. Anyway, on to the next one. This next one This next one is actually inspired by local foods here in Indonesia. I really didn't know what I was supposed to do with this one. I think we were both at a dead end because this was supposed to be scales, you know, like dragon scales, and dragon scales are huge. Or at least we wanted the dragon scales to be huge. And I really didn't know what to do. I started by drawing like a slice of skin with the scales still attached, but it looked kind of gross. And I went the easy route, which was to deep fry the scale. So there's just a single giant scale put on top of this banana leaf, this slice of banana leaf that is acting as a plate. This is like a normal thing that Indonesians eat. It's just like a bunch of stuff on a slice of banana leaf, and you eat it with your hands. And in this case, it's like a crispy deep fried dragon scale cracker with some anchovies, deep fried anchovies in the corner here. And this is like a hot dip, like a sambal type of thing. Some cucumbers here. Wow, this is like a whole platter of just delicious stuff. This one's an egg and some rice. Do you see that? Stacked on a banana leaf. I think I did a good job with just making this giant scale look like it's deep fried. Because there's just not much going on besides this little bit of the dragon scale colors peeping through from beneath, because it's not covered all that thickly with batter, you know, like deep fried batter. So a little bit of the colors from underneath is still showing. But it's covered quite nicely, so almost the entire thing is like a nice yellow colored deep fried batter, kind of like a crispy fried chicken batter. And the egg itself, do you see how I just used this off-white kind of color? And then the yolk itself is like 4 colors, this highlight color, and then the actual yolk color, and then this orangish color for the yolk. Well, I think the entire thing is just 3. So the off-white color of the egg, and then the highlight color of the egg yolk, and then this lighter orange and darker orange. That's it. The rest of the shadows you see here, this one and these around the edges of the egg, is added at the very end on a multiply layer on top of everything, which is what I like to do. So I finished the illustration, I consider it finished, and just to add some dimension, I would add a multiply layer on top of everything, and then I would add shadows to the entire thing that way. Yeah, I think this one ended up looking quite nice. Gives it some variety, because everything looked like barbecued stuff, you know? Maybe a little too Western, the entire thing. So I think adding this one, cooked and prepared and served this way, made it look fun, because this one looks more Southeast Asian. And this next one is, it's liver. I don't know if you've had liver before. I've had chicken livers. They're fantastic. I love livers. I am the liver lord. And I wanted to make this entire thing look like it's a sauce. So I used a giant cast iron pot with just a bunch of stuff inside of the sauce. This one could be, I don't know, like a green stick of something. Inspired by celery, like a stick of celery. And these are potato chunks in there. And a mystery leaf, could be a bay leaf, could be anything you want, could be anything the author wants. And the author actually gave me a nice feedback of what if we just sliced the liver into 2 slices and then flipped one so that it looks like a heart. So that way it can look like it's only made on special occasions. And I thought that was a great idea. And I actually didn't quite know about what to draw here. I mean, like how to draw this entire thing. But sometimes if you don't know the easy way of drawing things, sometimes the hard way is the only way. And if you don't really think about, oh, it's going to be so hard to draw like soup or cream, you don't think about how hard it's going to be, you just go ahead and do it. Before you know it, you would actually finish. So let me just show you what I did here. I wanted it to be like a thick, creamy sauce, right? With like a bunch of stuff below. I mean, like not below, like yeah, below the liver. But like I wanted the sauce to not look like it's just a flat sauce, like it's put through a blender. I wanted it to look chunky with like bits of veggies and other meats and maybe livers. So what I did was, let me just show you. Okay, I turned off those 4 layers. I added just a nice amount of random colors in random shapes. These could be anything. These could be more meat. These could be carrot. These could be potato chunks. These could be, I don't know, whatever you want it to be. And I also like the little bit of green I added in there. And I didn't add too much of it because I didn't want this entire thing to look overwhelming. Again, the less is more thing that I did here I think worked out perfectly. And also, let's just have a look at the textured brushes, huh? It did so nicely in helping me get the texture of this cast iron pot right. It looks very convincing. And I like the little bits of the shadow here on both left and right. I think it makes it look 3D, like it anchors it to the ground, because otherwise without the shadow it will just look like it's flying in the air, you know. But if I added shadows, then it would look like it's sitting on top of something, which is nice. So let's bring back that liver. And beautiful. This next one is actually lungs. Again, the author didn't quite know what to do with this, but I did mention how over here in Indonesia we actually deep fry them. So we slice them up very thin and then we deep fry them in batter. So they're actually lung chips. I think, I'm not quite sure, okay? I'm not sure if it's goat lung or like beef lung, but we eat lung chips here, and this is the example of it in the corner. They're delicious. If I were to describe what they taste like, they actually taste quite like taro root. I don't know if you've ever had those before, but imagine those, but a little bit on the meaty kind of tasting side. Like it's not so vegetably tasting. It's quite like taro root deep fried, and it's a little bit meaty tasting. And when you bite into it, it's quite dry. It doesn't taste like meat, you know, like doesn't taste like steak. It just tastes, it feels dry in the mouth, and as you crunch it, it kind of gets everywhere, kind of like when you're eating chocolate. And but they very easily, you can easily wash it down if you drink water. It's very nice. I love eating these. And I tried to do the same thing with the way the lung chips look like in real life. I tried to do the same thing with the dragon lung illustration here. And do you see all these different colors? So there are 3 different lung chips, right? And they're all of different colors. And this one's a bit of orangey brown. This one's a dull brown in the back. And this one on the front is a more light yellow colored. And I tried to make it look super big by putting an apple right next to it. And this one in the center, the one in the front is colored differently. I'd like to imply that this could be cooked in a different way with like a different batter, or maybe even a different oil, or maybe it came from a different type of dragon. It could be for because of any reason why this one is colored differently. But in the end, I think it still looks like lung chips, which I think looks beautiful. And you see all these different colors. Let's just talk about the one in the back. This dull reddish brown color here, and then it kind of gradates upwards into this lighter yellow color. and this brown, this gray color here, these little bits of gray and light blues and dull purples. I didn't use blending modes for that. I painted everything in myself manually on normal blending modes, and at the end of it, I added the shadows using only one multiply layer. Because what multiply layers do is it lets you add darker colors on top without getting rid of the detail beneath. And it was very simple. I learned a lot from drawing this one, how just drawing everything in normal blending mode layers and then adding one shadow layer at the end can make something look so convincing. And I added a little bit of highlights, these little slightly gray whites everywhere to just make it look more three-dimensional instead of flat and dark. Because if there are just midtones and then darks but there are no lights, it will end up looking flat. And this one in the front, along the edges, I did add, I think this could be pure white actually. Oh, this one might not be pure white, but this one is. And a trick and a way of thinking I like to use is adding rim lights here could just bring this particular object in the front even more forward, and it would push the one in the back even more to the back. And because you are not drawing like a super detailed thing, you know, this is not like a building, it's not like someone's castle, it's not a mansion. It's a good idea to just treat this as if it was a portrait of someone. And I'm sure many of you have drawn characters before, you know, like, so you add more shadows along the eye sockets, underneath the nose, on the sides of the head, and even more underneath like the chin. So the approach to drawing this entire thing like a portrait is you can add some shadow, some highlights right here, and pretend as if you are not drawing a long chip, but instead you are drawing like a mountain. If you add little bits of atmosphere along the different layers of these textures, it can really make this entire thing look 3D. And if I wanted, I could make this lung chip look like an actual mountain, you know? And just because this entire thing is facing our way doesn't mean they all will get the same amount of light. And again, we are pretending like we are super small, like we are like a tiny microscopic creature just looking at this lung chip from up close. Even though this entire surface is facing our way, if you are a really tiny creature, you will still see atmosphere here, you know? The ones that are closer to you will look more bright, and then the ones further away will look more faded because there's just a lot of mist. And there might be shadows here, but the deeper you go, the shadows actually get darker. So it's a good thing to keep in mind when you're drawing still life or something simple. But like, just because it's simple doesn't mean you cannot add detail, you know. And if you are struggling with adding detail into simple objects, this is how you do it. Like, imagine the apple itself. This entire surface is facing our way, but the sides are dark because it's further away from our eyes, you know, from the camera, from you and me. So the sides are going to look darker. And I bet you never thought of it before, but it clicked after I told you about it. Because you probably already understand that concept for drawing, let's say, houses or scenery, but you probably didn't think of doing the same thing, but with still life. Pictures, artworks, paintings, drawings, whatever. Just like this one. But yeah, that's a good technique to keep in mind. And this next one is the very last one. It's a skewer. These are hearts, dragon hearts, but they're not the entire heart. They're more like hearts. The dragon hearts has been chopped up This is quite simple. So it's a stainless steel skewer. I tried to add the flourishings, the decorations of this skewer look like it's fire, like it's in flames because it's dragon meat. So it's just a chunk of dragon heart followed by a half onion, more dragon hearts, and then half an onion, and then another dragon heart, and then another final half onion. And I added the shadow beneath. I think this was just I exported the entire thing, but only the illustration, without the background. And then I just turned on alpha lock, and then I painted in this dull purpley color, and then I distorted that layer and put it underneath the skewer itself, and there you go, easy shadows. This one's quite nice. I've actually had chicken hearts before. I don't know if you've had them, but they're a little bit chewy, but they're still very nice. And I tried to make the texture on the outside kind of look like super dry and crispy pork skins. That is actually not the texture of chicken hearts when you deep fry them or you grill them, but I thought it would be interesting to apply that kind of texture to the dragon hearts here. Because, well, dragons don't exist, or do they? If they were to exist, we will be able to see what their hearts would look like when cooked, right? But they don't. So I had to come up with something. And I think this one ended up making it look interesting. Fairly simple. This entire thing is just like a lighter red colors underneath with a textured red shadows on top, along with these ridges, these striations I drew in using like a chisel brush of my own. And then at the bottom of it all, I added these shadows because I think chunks of dragon heart, because they've been cut up, looks more interesting than whole dragon hearts, because then that would look like a heart, like it's scary. I like my meat to not look like it's still alive. Like, I don't want the heart to still look like it's going to beat, So I cut them up, and because it's been cut up, now we have a lot of interesting planes here that I can just add shadow to. And so I did, and I think it looks fantastic. And there we go. I had a lot of fun doing these commissions. I'm actually I quite enjoy cooking. I've been cooking ever since COVID became a thing. Like since day one, twice a day until now. Like before COVID, the only thing I knew how to cook was hot water, eggs, and instant noodles. But now I know how to cook a lot. So I really enjoyed doing these commissions, and all of these illustrations are for a book for the author Kaiser Steele. And the book is not out yet, but I will leave a link down in the comments below. The video descriptions below, in case you want to check out the rest of the author's works. And if the book is out, I'll pin a comment in the comment section to let you guys know, so you can check it out. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you like my artwork, please subscribe so you can see more of my videos in the future. And if you're curious about the brushes I used to draw everything here, go ahead and check the video descriptions because I have included the link to the brushes I used to make everything. And don't forget to like and subscribe, say hi, tell me what you think, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.